The best thing about a babysitter is like not the dinner or the drinks or the company. It's I don't got to put my fucking kids to bed.
Oh yeah. Oh
Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I just got a half chub.
Okay, so
So yeah.
record the intro now.
So what is Milkless? Because I think we start with the name.
Two dads, we love our kids, but then we also need them to know that we're like pretty cool and it's not like a wimpy podcast. So, hey, hey, Milkless.
Hey, welcome. Hey,
Milkless. Call the audience, Milkless. What's up, Milkless? Matt and Max coming at you.
what if that's it? That's our first take.
I have some studies that I wanted to realize to round us out as
I really felt not rounded out. Yeah,
we're not
for a while
rounded
now.
at all.
So pokey this whole time.
they're just so bullshit because they're all over the place. Like one 2013 study that 3 is the most stressful number of children to have.
Hey, you got that.
Yeah, but it's not. I think 2 was, I mean, more has got to be harder, I guess. But
There is a certain point where there's like 6 and the oldest ones can like where that like curve goes back down because the parents are just like, fuck it. They'll raise each other.
Then the kids become the parents. Yeah.
well, there's another study that says like people live longer when they have 2 kids. Like you die slightly earlier with 1 kid or 3 kids. 2 is like the sweet spot. Again, like I don't know about these studies.
That sounds right to me.
The 2020 study, 2,000 parents that age 8 is the hardest age to parent, which I disagree with entirely. So
All of those generalizations, I'm like, I talk to like, I frequently poll parents, what's the hardest age? That answer is a total like scatter plot. Like it is, there seems to be no consistency.
There's another study that says that like second kids are like the worst kids
I take offense.
and like have higher incarceration rates.
This sounds like a firstborn talking.
That kind of makes sense, even though in our case, our second child is like the easiest, hands down.
That's not the stereotype I've heard of. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like a real firstborn take.
Yeah.
I think secondborns are fucking awesome.
Anyway, so let's now that those have been realized and we're completely rounded, we can
We're
dive
completely
into
round.
I feel
into
round.
Sam here.
Yeah.
First of all, just like, have you got mad at your kid yet? Because since your last episode, like you had still never yelled at your child ever.
Yeah, not really.
Wow. It was worth a shot, Maxie.
It was worth a shot. We'll see what happens in a little bit with this second. But
I will grant, however, I've been wanting to tell you guys this, that there have since our last talk about anger, there have been moments where I've been like, I really do feel like it's just a matter of time. Like it's a ramp here. And like, and y'all said this when we were talking about it. It's like my kid was less than 2 years old at the time. But as the circumstances get older, as he develops more of his sense of self and desire for independence, as we add another kid, all these other variables into the mix, it's like I could see how I'm going to lose my shit. Like that line is going to be closer.
Well, it reminds me of like I just had this weird visual analogy pop into my head. Like if you just imagined like 30 squirrels and 30 raccoons kind of like just jumping around you and you just can't get your bearings. Mm-hmm. It's like if I was with one of my children, I don't think I would yell at them in 100 years. Mm-hmm. It's when multiple things happen and you're late and you get injured by one of them and something spills and you're hot and then it just, you kind of lose, you feel not yourself.
Yeah. Totally.
There's this great clip that actually you may have seen because it involves your beloved Red Sox. It's at Fenway Park. Actually, this happened on Father's Day. So a home run ball gets hit over the monster, and a dad's there with his 2 boys, and a fan behind him catches it and he hands it to the youngest kid. Amazing moment, and it's a Red Sox home run. So it's like this is a game ball, like a home run game ball, but the youngest kid he doesn't know how this works.
Must have just watched Rookie of the Year.
All he's seen is a Yankees home run get hit. So what he thinks you do is you throw the ball back. So his youngest son gets this ball and he immediately chucks it back on the field. And you see the dad, like he has a moment of like, no, but then he immediately calms himself. Amazing. He's performing amazingly this whole time. But then the oldest son just loses his shit because his little brother just chucked a fucking Red Sox game ball back on the field like a fucking hoser. And then the youngest son suddenly realizes, because the whole crowd realizes, that he's committed a mortal sin of throwing back a Red Sox home run. So he falls apart. And the dad is remaining amazingly calm, comforting both of his sons, telling his oldest son, like, this just happens sometimes in life, and telling his youngest son, it's okay. You didn't mess up. You didn't know. And so there's this moment where this dad is just absolutely nailing being a parent. And the net result is that both of his sons are sobbing. And sometimes that's how two kids are. You just like, it's like, oh, no, you're not going to win today. Like, no matter how good you do, you're not going to win. And those are the moments where I feel like if you're not that hero Red Sox dad, that's when I like fucking lose my shit.
That sounds like a dad of the year right now.
Dad of the year.
Do they hand those awards out on social media or anything like
they
that?
Really
Sometimes
are.
you see,
I
like,
don't know.
check out this dad.
I was trying to normalize getting mad, Matt.
No, but I'm saying that's when I get mad because I'm not that guy. I get mad too.
That's not a time to get mad. That's, and you're on national television. He crushed it. But I mean, it's not like, oh, he happened to have his shit together. You would nail that. You wouldn't yell at your kids.
Only because there were cameras on me.
It's when you're late for school. They won't put their shoes on. You have a Zoom call in 10 minutes. You're pushing into that.
Yeah,
you're pushing into like, and they won't go. And then they have their shoes on and they take their shoes off and throw them at you. And it hurts you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was the point of my...
Yeah.
That was the point of my postscript, was that like that hasn't happened to me yet. And that probably explains most of this. Like, sure, I'm a calm guy, but that I haven't had that happen. It will, because my son, I'll carry him up 2 of the 17 steps up the stairs and he'll be like, no, I wanted to walk. And I'm like, all right, here, you're on the 2nd step. He's like, no, I wanted to do it from the 0th step. I got to start over, right? And that's going to get harder and harder once there are other variables thrown in there.
And then you got a kid at the top of the stairs yelling at you about like, what are you doing? Like, yeah, for sure. Yeah. But okay, so back to this, the idea of time. I do think that was, to me, like 0 to 1 was this huge existential mind fuck of like, I have generally been in the center of my own universe and life, and now I no longer am. 1 to 2, you've already done that. So I wasn't like, I didn't have this like big shift in identity or the way I thought about life. It was more just the little free time I had left went. And for the first time, I like just didn't have energy, because I've always kind of had energy, but for the first time I was like, no, I'm really just tapped. I got nothing. And to an even greater extent, you're like, especially early days, your wife's really got nothing. And you kind of, you do that thing with babies where you just kind of kiss your marriage goodbye for a little while. And you're like, we'll be married again someday. We're just not right now. Like, what we do right now is we make sure people stay alive. And I'll see you in a little while. I mean, Sam, I remember I always used to take my oldest daughter for like 5 hours on a Saturday to just give my wife an empty house before our second was born. And then I'd come back and I'd hand off my daughter and I'd go do something for 5 hours. And I had this distinct memory of the first time I took my oldest daughter out for 5 hours and was like, go, like I'm crushing as a parent. And then I came home and my wife handed me a baby. And I was just like, fuck me. And instead of being rejuvenated from 5 hours at the house, my wife was just like more tired. I was like, oh God.
Yeah. Going from 1 to 2 kids is kind of like when you graduate college and you go to your first job and you're like, hey, when's summer vacation?
Yeah, man.
This is the rest of your fucking life.
Yeah. Tuck in.
No breaks.
It's true, but then it just gets less and less and less true.
Yeah. As a North Star, our 9 and 7-year-old, I think if we put food out, or they know how to make fucking Hot Pockets and eggs, they could literally, I think they could live indefinitely together and be happy.
Or for as long as a Hot Pocket can sustain you. As much nutritional value as Hot Pocket.
But it is, I think it's harder than double a single kid for it's certain phases, especially when when the younger one gets out of the baby phase. And then you have like a 1 and a 3-year-old or a 2 and a 4-year-old. That is just exceedingly hard. And I think a big thing to really focus on also is just how to crawl your way back into a relationship with your partner. Like, have you guys ever done babysitters yet?
We have, but one of the things I had in my mind to mention was that I think our relationship is great right now, but we're coasting on like banked goodwill and experiences and hey, nice job parenting, and not really going on enough dates.
Yeah.
And so maybe we can coast right now, but can we coast when the second kid comes around?
Like, let's say you're nursing, pumping, and then at around 3 months, 4 months, like if you can get out, even if it's a grandparent, even if it's a day thing, if you don't feel like, just the more you can do that, otherwise you are really in crazy town for a while there.
Yeah. And there's a real thing too, because babies are such a touch intensive phase. And then also because the babies occupy all that time with mom, whenever the older kids are around mom, like at least for us, older kids just climbing over mom, physically clingier more than ever. So there's a real touched out thing, like for a while where like there's kind of, it's just no touching, like please no touching. So yeah, I mean, I think for a while you do kind of need to be able to coast because it's just unrealistic to think that's going to be your girlfriend. But the two things to hold that again kind of seem paradoxical are like, you want to miss that relationship with your wife. You don't want to give up on it, but you also don't want to carry this feeling that like you're doing it wrong or you should have it right now. So it like needs to be a goal to like reclaim that and focus on that. But also you don't want to heap this second order angst on top of what is just kind of largely an inevitable set of circumstances. Does that make sense?
Totally. I mean, I feel that in everything I do in life. It's like, well, it's like those feelings of like guilt or shame, or maybe there's some slightly less negative sounding words to describe a feeling of dissatisfaction, or like I can be better. Like that drives us, that motivates. But also if you have low expectations, or if you say like, you know what, I'm doing the best I can, then you might be happier in the short run too. How do we balance both of those things so we can try to be better and be happier, but also try to be happy with what we have right now as well?
Yeah. Yeah. I've really tried to see missing things. I've tried to, because there's so much you miss, right? I was in my garage and I used to like to play golf, but my golf clubs now have spider webs growing all the way up them because 5 hours on a weekend is a big ask. And I missed that because not so much, I'm a shitty golfer, but it was a fun thing to go do with my friends, just drink some beers and be outside. And one way to look at that is I miss this. I should do it more. I'm fucking up. And I'm not taking care of myself or whatever. And another way to look at it is me missing this is the act of me continuing to like it and be interested in it at a time when I'm not able to do it. And I want to continue liking, I want to continue to be interested in it. I want to continue to like and be interested in all these things that aren't just about my kids. And missing them is the act of me loving something in its absence, not an indication that I am fucking up my life.
Nice reframe.
But you also want to try to fight for those little pieces of yourself that you can. You want to try to be like, you got to keep that in mind because you do become a worse parent if you totally neglect the things that you care about that aren't just your kids. So it is this thing. It's like holding all these things at once that seem to be in conflict, but are all kind of true.
Matt, you weren't sure you knew what personal freedom actually means anymore. But my question for y'all is like, what do y'all do to do you make any effort? What do y'all do to try to get some of that? Or is it just the kind of revenge self-own nights that we've talked about, that y'all have talked about in the podcast? Because like I definitely partake in the revenge self-own night a fair amount these days, but that's like a key way of having me time. And yeah, with the second, like I'm thinking intellectually, theoretically, like is it justifiable at all once there's a second kid to do those revenge cell phone nights, or is the back end of that just too costly, just too terrible?
Yeah, I think that's not justifiable, but we do it anyway. The same reason people suck dick for heroin under a bridge. So like,
wow, what an analogy.
It's not good. It's not good. So that's not good.
Wow. With that said,
what is good is, as we're not going to talk about that initial phase, the first 3 months, where, it's like fucking war zone, like
yeah, dude.
Figuring shit out, baby's not sleeping. The minute the baby starts to sleep, and whether you're on formula or you're, even if you're breastfeeding, you can pump. I think it's like, this is going to come out wrong, but like both of you and your partner need to know how to take care of both kids at the same time.
Certainly true. Yeah.
There's some people like, because at the beginning, you don't do that. It is one-on-one where, okay, let's say usually mom's got the baby, dad's got the older kid for whatever, bedtime, this, that, like you're a little bit of divide and conquer. But as soon as you can, you need to like, okay, let's say Matt does a tennis thing on Wednesday nights or whatever, or there's a volleyball league, or, Sam, if we lived in the same town, we want to get together and play violin and guitar together like we used to in Boston. Like,
hell yeah.
We could just do that. And my wife can watch both kids. But then guess what? I want her to go out for a girls' night or like they're going to go do this with her friends. And I watch both kids for me. It's like, those are all just doable. It's just whether you want to do it. It's hard. It adds complexity, but those things are so important. And then on top of it, I think it's also important to just get out, whether it's babysitters or grandparents, as much as fucking possible. Like Sam, you said, like, what do you do? Now our kids are a little older, but like tonight we're going out to dinner with another couple and the babysitter's going to be here in like 3 hours. I've been looking forward to it all week.
Nice. Yeah.
The best thing about a babysitter is like not the dinner or the drinks or the company. It's I don't got to put my fucking kids to bed.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I just got a half job.
What are you doing tonight? Oh, we're just going to go sit in solitary confinement in a concrete cell. Do I have to put my kids to bed?
No.
Yeah. I mean, I love putting my kids to bed in all fairness, but it's like to get that respite or respite.
I think I said respite for about 25 years of my life, but I'm pretty sure it's respite.
Okay. Yeah. So getting that respite.
Yeah. I love putting my kids to bed too. I also love pizza, but if I had had pizza every night for the last 7 months, I would be like good to take a night off from pizza.
What was the downside? What was the bad way for that to come out, Max? I thought that came out right. It makes perfect sense to me.
Oh, because I was going to be like, oh, your fucking newly minted pregnant wife, like she needs to know how to take care of 2 fucking kids.
Oh, right.
Yeah. My orientation was much more like, no, the dad needs to hear this. It's like, Dad, you got to sack up.
I meant like, in a way, both of you, but then I didn't want it to come out that like mom with like, stitches in her and like not in a good spot physically, like take care of 2 fucking kids so I can go out for beers. I meant more like later in the process. This episode is brought to you by Milkless. We are self-funded, self-sponsored. Matt and Max, we're spending way too much time a week on this for your listening pleasure. So, if you want to help out, please visit our Patreon. Just kidding, we don't fucking do Patreon. We're not asking for any money. All we want is for you to text this to a friend. So, if you could pause the episode right now, think of someone who might benefit from Milkless. Maybe it's a dad you know, a mom someone
Think of the shittiest father you know.
No, that shittiest father doesn't care enough to listen. But someone who maybe likes podcasts and, the thought of a parenting podcast is like, oh my God, it's like so dry. You can tell them how funny I am and how Matt
also says things sometimes.
Yeah. You need a dictionary to understand half of the things he's saying because he likes to show his big vocabulary.
Oh my God.
So,
read a book, Max.
Anyway, what was I saying? So just pause the episode right now. Text a friend. It means so much to us, and you will ensure that we will continue making these episodes free of charge forever.
Here's another dynamic that I feel like I see commonly, even with any kids, but I think particularly when you get more than one kid. That like taking care of yourself piece, which is totally impossible in the first 3 months and, just very slowly eases off. I feel like for a lot of moms, it is so hard for them to find the space and maybe like feel like they can give themselves the permission to do that. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of dads, not me in my marriage, but some people will out of really looking out for your wife as a person, but also seeing like the way that like total exhaustion and being tapped affects them as a parent and a partner, will really suggest like, could we create some space for you to take care of yourself a little bit? And that doesn't always go great. Sometimes I feel like that's met with like, you have no fucking idea how much I can't. Because in the early phase, my wife expressed this. She's like, it was just hard not to be pissed at you no matter what you did because you can't make milks from your titties. Like, I just am mad because you ain't got them titties. And I was like, you're right. How could you not be? But also, I don't deserve that. But like, I'll just kind of weather it. And so what I'm getting at is like, when I really felt like I was totally fucking acing it as a dad and a husband, and I didn't do it enough, and looking back, I wish I'd done it more, is like, don't ask my wife how I can make her life a little easier. Because she doesn't even have the fucking brain power. She's like, what, I got to field another question now? Like, when I could just swoop in and take a baby and leave and bring the other kid with me and not ask. It's like, I'm not asking. This is just what's happening. That was the true ace.
Right.
And that I didn't do as much as I wish I had.
That's good. Oh, that's good.
Right. Because I think a lot of times, like, I'm going to talk about gender generally, but like women who are primarily the primary caretaker, even I think we're all pretty very engaged fathers, but they're the primary 51%ers at least, maybe more. They kind of don't trust us a little bit. So if it's like, hey, what do you want to do? And they're like, okay, I got fucking Tweedledee over here asking to take the baby. Now I'm going to pump. This fucking idiot's going to like spoil the milk or spill it. It's going to be a fucking clusterfuck. As opposed to, like, to your point, Matt, when you just kind of take the baby or suggest like, hey, I know that now that our baby is only feeding 4 times during the day, it seems like there's a window between 10 and 2. On Tuesdays, my work is I'm going to take the babies and whatever every day from 10 and 2 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So whatever you want to do, go ahead. Then if they want to work out and, or do whatever, or go play golf or whatever.
Would you tell her that she should work out? Would you go with that?
That's, I think, the
should really hit the gym, babe. I'm going to give you this time.
I like to do it at the 3 week mark.
Time to get back in the gym, babe. Keep it tight.
I'm sure they love.
Get back in the gym.
No.
Yeah. Sorry. Anyways, I interrupted you.
That's great advice from both of y'all, up until the last 30 seconds, of course.
I would never in a million years suggest that. But I know that my wife always, that was one of her things. Like, she never felt like she had the time to work out. So making that suggestion, is
that's something that's important to her and that she knows and like make her feel like herself.
Right. And I think the thing comes down to like basically something that Matt, we've been chatting about for a while. We chatted about in the first episode, but basically we dads are entering uncharted territory in the last 50 years. Like, this didn't exist before. So there's not a lot of like examples to draw on, like in pop culture, in whatever. Like, this is what you do. Of course, when the baby goes to only 2 naps, like, you should do X, Y, and Z to help your partner. But like, who the fuck knows? It hasn't been figured out yet. We're working on it. So the best thing is just having a super tight communication about all this shit, especially like right out of the gate. Like, there's going to be some postpartum action going on, like it's going to be really fucking overwhelming. Just like checking in, how are we doing? But having that knowledge that like it likely will not be unicorns and rainbows the first couple weeks, especially with 2 kids, you're figuring shit out. But then still staying in touch. Like, even though it's like hard, still like talking about goals. What do we want to do?
To your
there soon, or
to your point, Max, I think it was the last time that my wife and I had like a tough conversation about parenting a couple weeks ago. And it was about like thinking ahead to childcare for 2 children. And it was just clear that my wife had spent a lot of time thinking about it, and I had spent no time thinking about it. And there's this, I think, it's all too easy for me to slide into this. Like, she's better at thinking about it, and she also is aware of that as well. And that just like makes it all the harder to shift this like 95 to 5% divergence in logistics and in the effort towards logistics. Is like, well, she has the comparative advantage, but like, especially in these first few months, it's like, even if you're better at something, if you're also totally gassed and overwhelmed, then like that doesn't mean that just because you're better at it, you should still be doing the thinking about it. And what y'all said in your examples was like, do some thinking about it and then suggest instead of ask, what should we do about this?
Yeah.
Like that seems like it's going to be worth a lot
Or just
in the
fucking
relationship.
do it. Like if you show up with a solved problem, like hell yeah, man.
Yeah. Suggest or actually do. But the first step for, idiots like us is to actually put forth the effort to think about it. And all too often I just like, don't do that.
Yeah.
And also like being in, like, how lonely must it be for a mom to think about all that shit with a newborn? It's like getting involved with like understanding the nap cycle once it starts to settle in. It's like, okay, it seems like the kid, wakes up, has a nap, or feeds at 7, feeds at 10, feeds at 2. It's almost like in a sporting game or when you're following a season, when you're watching a show, are you following the thread of what the fuck's going on? What is your wife thinking about? Otherwise that can be very lonely for the woman. It's like, she's thinking about, cause I got way into lactation, by the way. I'm like a fucking lactation consultant. I've read Kelly Mom, like cover to cover, but like, basically, like, did you know, just a quick sidebar about lactation, did you know that like it's all supply and demand? So if you skip a feeding, then the breast will be like massively engorged. But then like the next day, that day where you didn't do the feeding, that milk can drop and just be like, oh, you skipped the 2:00 feeding because, I was like, well, why do we just skip it? Yeah. We'll just use formula for the 2:00 one. You do that, you don't have the supply tomorrow. And
when you say that kind of shit, that's when your wife's like, you fucking cheese dick.
Dude,
like,
you don't fucking know anything.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a very quick read. Ask ChatGPT to, tell you about lactation, learning about the nap cycle. Then it's like, you're both on the offensive coordinator team of like figuring out like, okay, what's the fucking game plan? How are we going to get out of these days of darkness?
Yeah.
Oh, sick. Maybe we can go down to 4 naps.
Sam, with all this stuff, like, it's fun when you have somebody on where I also know your spouse very well. And like, I remember a conversation that we were all having where I was really advocating that your wife had chosen a career and a profession that was very challenging so that she could be helpful. And she was trying to argue that somehow she had not done that and was kind of being selfish. And I was kind of like, dude, you work like 70 hours a week for Detroit public schools. And she's like, yeah, that's true. So knowing about your wife, that she's going to kind of give and give and give and see anything that she does for herself as selfish. That's just kind of who she is. That like is extra true for you.
You got to step up huge.
Like recognize that like she's not going to stop and tell me that it's too much and that like she needs some help. Like, yeah.
Totally. Good point.
Now, it will literally come knocking at your door in 25 years when you get fucking divorce papers. I mean, that's how that type of shit presents. It's like, I had no idea. And it's like, you fucking piece of shit.
Well, last time we had you on, we talked about how you're a lower conflict couple. Yeah. Which is this is Max's advocacy for like, fight it out, baby. Then those divorce papers don't show up out of the blue.
Well, otherwise, you don't know.
Yeah.
You gotta,
you don't know.
No, but that's why like trying to really see, this is going to be hard for everybody when you go from 1 to 2 or when you go from 2 to 3.
Yep.
So, hitting it with offense.
3 to 4, 4 to 5. Yeah. Jim Gaffigan has that great joke
about Hot Pockets.
He does. Yeah, this is our second Jim Gaffigan reference of the thing. Hot Pockets. No, but after he had his 5th kid, he did a stand-up special. He's like, if you want to know what it's like to have a 5th kid, just imagine you're out in the middle of the ocean. There's no land in sight, and you're drowning, and you can barely keep your head above water. And then someone hands you an infant. Yeah, that's kind of,
So good.
Even going from 1 to 2 can feel a little bit like that. But man, I don't know. I mean, we've spent so much time talking about what's hard about it, but like when it is going good between your kids, that is like the single best fucking feeling in the world. When you are just sitting back with your partner and watching your 2 kids be sweet together, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. It's unbelievable how great that is.
I'm looking forward to seeing my son hold his little sibling for the first time, and just like who knows how it'll actually look, but I've seen it before with little kids holding their little siblings or somebody else's little sibling, and I've seen it on my son's face too. Is this like a slow spread of wonder, like not a huge smile, but just like a little slight like, wow,
yeah,
this is something.
Yeah, this is something.
And we go back and look at those photos at least twice a year, where we're like, do you want to see when you met this one? Do you want to see when this one? And they love it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my God, especially when the baby becomes the age of the older kid, they kind of identify more with the older. So it's so
sick.
Cool. And the last little thing we said on previous episodes, I love this little tip. We made it internally, is like, every time you add a kid, do something for yourself that makes your life easier, whatever that is. And if you have the finances, like, get a cleaning person, or like do something that makes your life a little bit easier, because otherwise it's just going to get harder. It's nice to kind of give yourself a little bit of a misdirection. Like, oh, I don't have to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
Amen.
There might be something you could take, like, oh, I always use drip coffee. It's like, get a Nespresso or a Keurig. It's a little bit more, but like, is that nicer for you?
I also think like there's things that like don't cost a dime. I mean, we used to always eat dinner at the dinner table, but now that we have 2 kids, like once or twice a week, we will put on Planet Earth and eat in front of the TV. And like, we're all together. Like, that's no cost, man. Last night we watched a thing about caves and it was fucking dope, but dinner was easier. It's like, just ease off some of those ideals a little bit of like screen time before there, whatever the fuck. It's like, you got like, you're weighing so many things all the time. You're weighing that. Yeah. That's another way to look at it. It's like, you're weighing your older kid. Also, now you're weighing a baby. You're weighing the increased tax on your wife and yourself and on your marriage. And every decision you make, there's another big old like planetary object in that 3, 4, 5 body problem. And so of course it's not as ideal, but God, is it awesome.
Yeah. Well put. Maxie, you didn't really have me scared or anything, but the, when you linked the, if you don't do this in 25 years, there will be divorce papers in your mailbox. I was thinking, man, that's not what I'm looking for. The opposite messaging here, because I'm overthinking. I'm thinking like, what can I say or do right now so that my son is not like irreversibly damaged by this sudden shock and by this introduction of a second child. And I was talking to my wife about this. We have some friends who came home from the hospital and they had a gift from the newborn to their son. They were going from 1 to 2, and they sort of pretended that the newborn had gone to the store and gotten them a gift, and it was like mini boxes of cereal. It's like, hey, we came home with this second kid who's going to irreversibly change your life, but cereal, mini boxes of cereal. I think. So I wanted to ask you guys what you thought about that tactic, whether that was a good move or not.
I don't think it's. I mean, my oldest definitely got some like shit from the hospital gift shop when my youngest was born. I don't think, but here's a way to maybe think about it. I went and heard this talk. This woman was talking about life, and one of the things she said is that there's so much growth that comes through hardship, and there are ways that you can't grow except by experiencing hardship. And the way she put it that I thought was cool is when you go through a really hard phase of your life, or you go through a transition that's really difficult, when you get to the end of that, hopefully you have become the person that you needed at the beginning of that. It's kind of a fucked up way for life to work, because gosh, it would have been nice to be that person from the start, but you couldn't get to be that person until you'd gone through the hard thing. Introducing a second kid is a hard thing for a first kid. For all the things that are wonderful about it, is a hard thing for the first kid. We have such a desire and an instinct to shield our kids from the difficult experiences in life, and for discomfort and from pain, whether it's emotional or physical. That's such an instinct. Not always the right instinct, because if what happens is that at the end of this hard thing, your oldest is a person who can share the attention of his parents, but still know that he is loved and safe. Like, isn't that worth the hardship?
That goes straight to my heart. I vibe hard with that, Because my greatest fear, I've probably told you all this before, is like an entitled, spoiled child. And what I find is in my observation in life is that, I don't know, the way the world works, unfortunately, is that when you've gone through hardship, that gets you further from spoiled. And so you don't wish hardship on anybody, but the reason why I vibe so hard with this is because this is a great, safe example of where it's obvious to me that like this hardship, they're going to get through it. I know that like everybody, so many of us have other siblings, and it was hard and it was worth it, and we're better off for it. And so it's going to be okay. And hopefully we'll have built character in the time being, even though there were hard parts to it.
I honestly just have never considered that it was hard for the kids. I was just always like, this is fucking awesome. We have another kid in the house.
That's wild.
If you want to get Captain Crunch and Fruit Loops for the kids, like, I don't think there's a wrong, because that's fun and cool, but I don't think it's because it's like, oh my God, we're stealing 50% of all, parental engagement. We must backfill with Captain Crunch. It's like, no, it's like, this is fucking awesome. This is fucking awesome.
Crunch is so good.
I don't know. I guess my thing is like I always just I kind of voice what I wish the child's internal monologue was. And then maybe it becomes true because I'm fucking whispering in their ear all the time. Like, isn't this awesome? Can you believe that we have a baby in our house? This is so cool. Let's go check out the baby. You know what I mean? It isn't bad. I don't like hardship. Oh, they need to see hardship. It's a fucking other sibling. It's going to be great. It's awesome. It's just awesome.
Just see things differently. Come on. You've seen hardship before too. Are you also, by the way, I'm picturing you like piping in the sound and into the sound machine when they're sleeping, like your life is awesome type of thing. So that it's just
you know what I do make a point to say probably once every 3 or 4 days to each kid that they are truly someone that I like admire and look up to, like, dude, nice. You are just, I try to mix up the adjectives. So it's not like I don't say cool first or nice first or smart first or funny first or attractive or handsome, but I'll sneak all that shit in all the time. But yeah, because I believe it. I fucking love these.
Yeah. No, that cheerleading is awesome. We all could use it.
Maxie, I think it's such a good balance because it's like fucking hardship. Like, how many people got siblings? We're going to call all that hardship? Like, it's a good life. You got good parents.
Pussies.
Dude, but the way to happiness is not the violent repression of negative emotion, bruh. But like they are good counterpoints to each other. Like, you don't have to wallow, but you also don't have to act like going from being the only object of your parents' affection to being largely sidelined for a while is not a thing that happens.
But it's also like, I don't know. I don't see it. I honestly have never, like, I see it in the rear view, like, and I can't analyze it logically, but I don't see it going in. I don't see that as hardship because it's like, it's a positive event for our family. No one died of dysentery. Jimmy didn't get a snake bite on the Oregon Trail. It's like, sick. We got another fucking life form. Sick. This is awesome. We got another kid here. Dude, this is so sick.
You're right. It's a little toxic.
Brought to you by Violet Archer.